what is the biggest lessons that you learned from any of the other players in the Charles Schwab Challenge for what was its strongest field to date? So, Damon Hack, what lesson did you learn?
For me, speaking of strength, it was the strong week of 2016 champion Jordan Spieth, watching him make 456 and 1 inch feet of putts over the week. No one else in the 400s. I tell you what, he's such a momentum player. It was the old Jordan Spieth holing chips up from off of the green, and he drove the ball better, hit 32 of 56 fairways compared to 23, for example, for Justin Thomas. So I think we're seeing Jordan Spieth start to put things together. Obviously, it's a golf course where he's very comfortable, has the best scoring average there since 2013. But I tell you what, his misses weren't as big as they have been. He looked comfortable, confident, and had some swagger back.
Yeah, I agree with you, Damon. That was one of my takeaways from this week as well, is that we're seeing a little just tightened up Jordan Spieth. And he's done things really well over the last several years, just not all at the same time. And he definitely felt like his driver was eluding him for the last several months. So it was great to be able to see him finding some fairways on a golf course that required it, that demanded it. So I, like you, am very optimistic and feel like I did learn something about Jordan Spieth this week.
And I tell you what, it does seem like the road for him is getting shorter and shorter in terms of being back among the best players in the world. But even if he's not there right now, you can tell that I think he looks comfortable in contention as if he's been there before. Didn't have his best Sunday yesterday, but he looks to me like a player who knows how to win. And once he kind of gets, in more contention on Sunday, I think we're going to continue to see Jordan Spieth play better golf in the rest of 2020.
Yeah, it was just great to see Spieth back on our screens on a Sunday with a few fist pumps. It was a bit of vintage Spieth that we've all missed so much. Okay, Robert, you are someone who is always thirsty for knowledge. What is the lesson that you learned from any of the players in the field?
Well, I learned when Bryson says he's going to do something, by gosh, he means it. Conventional wisdom says that if you want to go into a good, solid slump with your golf game, you can change your body drastically quickly, or you can really chase club head speed. Guess what? Bryson's done both. He started off a little shaky, and it's absolutely, in this last handful of tournaments, played fantastic. Not just played fantastic, driven it unbelievable. So long. His club head speed a couple times cracked 130. His ball speed was approaching 200. He's like Kyle Berkshire all of a sudden, and he's getting, look at all these drives and how far they went. This guy, I mean, he said he's going to get big. He's big. He said he's going to get long. He's long. And again, we kind of laughed, as we have in the past, when he said he's going to do things. I'm going to play with one length shaft. He absolutely goes against the grain, against conventional wisdom. I still think that the way he approaches things probably doesn't work for anyone else. But for Bryson, it really gets things done. I mean, he's so big. He's going up to Brooks and going, "How much you bench, bro?" Just it's all about how strong he is. He's gaining so much confidence from being this beefcake dude. Look out for him. I mean, he's on the top 5 run right now. He's going to win again very soon.
He is the ultimate beefcake. We just saw there 8 drives over 350 yards throughout the week. And he said if he felt like he'd putted a little bit better, then he would have blown away the field, Paige. Can you see if Bryson's short game can come together? Can you see him obliterating the field week in, week out on the PGA Tour?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing I learned about Bryson is this isn't a gimmick. A lot of people went to the gym over the course of their career because it gave them a mental edge. They felt like they were doing every little detail to try to be the best golfer that they could be. For Bryson, it's not about that. It's not a mental edge. It's a physical edge. And he's been able to convert what he's done physically into great golf. And that doesn't always happen. And for me, I'm a believer. I thought it was a little gimmicky. I thought it was a little bit out there. But the fact that he's been able to make this work translate into great golf, I learned a lot about Bryson this week.
Yeah, hats off to Bryson, because it was a risk, and it certainly looks like a risk that will be paying off. It seems like only a matter of weeks before we see him back in the winner's circle, Paige. But what lesson did you learn?
For me, it was about Xander Schauffele. And I don't know if I learned something or it just confirmed what I felt like I already knew about Xander. And that's he's a gritty player. And I know he didn't get it done in the end, didn't ultimately make it into that playoff, but he had some moments on that back 9 where he needed to get it done. He was completely completely out of position on the 14th hole. It just would turn into kind of a disaster, and was able to salvage this really incredible bunker par to keep this round moving. And then on 15, the following hole, it got even worse. Ended up hitting it in the water, ends up in this position to try to save bogey, was able to drain that putt. When you talk about with another birdie in the bag, you really kind of start to see the heart of who Darren Tracy is. And I say it confirms what I feel like I already knew, because I go back to the first time I remember watching him play, and that was his win, his very first year on tour at Greenbrier, when he was on the 18th hole, a par 3, and stuck it to 3 feet in order to capture his very first win as a rookie. And I know that he's a gritty player, and it just confirmed it this weekend.
Yeah, not one of the
There is a
flashiest players or the most outgoing player, but certainly one to watch. And it was again heartbreak for Xander, especially on that 17th green. Okay, well, the biggest lesson I learned, and that was Rory McIlroy. Now there are two ways of looking at this, because yes, it was a disappointing Sunday for Rory. We know that. In fact, it was a bit of a shocker. But the lesson I learned was that as the top 5 streak comes to an end, I think we underappreciated Rory's consistency. Now it was a final round 76. He opened with a double bogey 6, made the turn at 6 over, and he said he just hit a rut from the first hole. But last week we asked ourselves the question whether fans should expect Rory's streak to continue, and some of us said yes, we should. But realistically, looking at the depths of these fields, I think we probably underrated actually how difficult it has been for Rory to finish in these top 5s week in, week out. It was 7 consecutive weeks, and we kind of started to take it as Rory's new normal, which seems to be the catchphrase of the moment. But I don't think we should have done, and possibly, Damon, we should have appreciated more at the time, because it was disappointing to not even really see him at all on Sunday.
I think the streak is fine and impressive, but I don't want to overstate it, because I feel like Rory still has some room to grow. If you dig inside the numbers, he's first in first round scoring average. He's in the top 10 in second and third round scoring average. He's 123rd, Anna, in final round scoring average. And that's the number 1 player in the world, the best player in the world. And we saw him finish tied for 32nd yesterday. He didn't even have his voice heard. And I've said that before about Rory. Even as great as he is and as well as he's played, I feel like there have been moments on Sundays where he's had a chance to at least to clear his throat and let the rest of the field hear him and feel him, and he hasn't done that. Yesterday was a mess, and the conditions were tougher yesterday than they were the first 3 days. It's not that he didn't win. It's just that he just, it was inexplicable to me. I kind of want to just dig in and know why is this happening? It's not about the top 5 streak to me. It's not even about the win. It's about not even factoring it all yesterday.
Yesterday, I agree with you, was a bit of a mess. But I think for Rory, he's the best, supposedly the best player in the world right now, and he should have produced a little bit more. But the fact that previously, over the last 7 starts, Robert, he has contended every single time, and he has produced golf that has created these huge opportunities for him. Now, why he hasn't been able to capitalize on them at all really is a question. But the fact that he's putting himself in these positions is something to be hugely commended.
You're right, and Damon is right. It's incredible how good he is, and he is number 1 in the world. He has the capability of being the clear cut, far and away number 1 in the world. But there is that one thing missing. He drives it so well. He never misses the middle of the club face. He's an incredible bunker player, and some Sundays, like last Canadian Open, he shot 61. He was tough as nails at the Players when he won. But then sometimes he doesn't show up. Like Damon said, there is absolutely in his mind when he tees up on every Sunday on the last group or in contention, where he has to wonder to himself which Rory is going to show up and not feel like he's in control of what's going on the way he did the first 3 rounds. It inexplicable is a good word, Damon.
I would disagree with that, though. I'm going to offer an explanation. When you reach a par 5, and you need to make eagle. Eagle's a possibility, but so is double bogey at that point, because there's a little bit more on the line, because you're willing to take a little more risks. And I'm going to offer potentially that when you get to Sunday for Rory McIlroy, he's trying to win the golf tournament. It's not about finishing 2nd or 3rd or 4th, and maybe he puts a little bit more on the line, plays it a little riskier, and maybe that's where it starts to fall off one way or the other.